AITAH for telling my abusive little sister in rehab that she's not allowed to hold my baby when she's born? I'm so conflicted. I, F27, am currently pregnant, 32 weeks. For some context, my husband, M32, have been married for 5 years and this is our first baby. I don't work, I used to, but when we got married I stopped, and my husband works a really good job, makes enough money to support us, but works really long hours sometimes. I have an older sister, we can call her Emily. Emily is currently engaged to Brian. Brian and my husband were friends from college, coincidental me and my sis started dating the two of them lol. Anyway, we see each other quite often, especially since I've been pregnant. I have placenta previa and since 30 weeks I've been put on light bed rest. Meaning I can still do things but I have to sit as much as possible and not drive or exercise, things like that. I also have a younger sister, F24, who is a drug addict and alcoholic. Her name is Sydney. She's been to rehab several times and I used to baby her before finally my husband explained it bad it was to give an addict chances. I had to let her figure it out on her own and stop making excuses for her. She had an overdose but ended up being fine. She spent about 7 months in jail. When she got out and I wouldn't help her, she punched me in my jaw. That was the final straw. That was about a year ago. Since then she's reached out, apologized, tried to be better. It took a lot for me to let her back in, but after getting confirmation from her sponsor that yes she's sober and yes she's committed to being a better person, I started to let her in a bit more. This was shortly after I got pregnant. I didn't invite her to my baby shower though. I don't know why, I honestly wasn't trying to be mean, I just didn't send her an invitation. I didn't know she'd want to come. She called Emily day off and apparently she was really upset. I reached out afterwards and apologized and told her that we could make it somehow. Well, yesterday was the somehow. We had a family dinner at my house, because again, I can't go far. Emily and Brian came over and I spent basically 2 hours making a nice dinner for all of us, with help from my husband. When Sydney showed up, I could tell right away she had an attitude. Why? It was the first time she'd ever been in my house and she immediately started in with the "you're so rich and privileged" attitude she's always had. Yes, we live in a really nice house, but my husband worked really hard for the money we have to pay for it. I'm privileged in the sense of having such an amazing husband and marriage, but otherwise the comments are unnecessary. I could tell Emily gave her the "shut up" look and she kinda dropped it. Then at dinner, she started in on the fact I don't work. I told her I just didn't like my job and when our mom got sick, which she wasn't around for, I quit to take care of her. I didn't go back afterwards. She snickered at that and called me a housewife. I bit my tongue again. Then she asked me about my pregnancy. I explained that everything is great and we are having a girl. She says, "I bet you're hoping she's like you and not us," and points to Emily and her. I wanted so bad to say I hope she's nothing like you, and Emily is so much better than you are, but I held my tongue again. At this point I could tell both my husband and Brian are uncomfortable as they aren't used to her like me and Emily are. Later on Emily stands to get herself another glass of wine. Sydney snarks that, "You're the host, what are you doing?" My husband pipes up before I can and explains that I have previa and aren't supposed to be up and down. I could tell he was really frustrated with her attacking me at this point. She kinda shut up after. Until Emily asks me about our bassinet. Her and Brian got it for us at the shower. Of fucking course, Sydney had an opinion on that too. She starts asking me about my plans for her breast milk or formula, co-sleeping or not, pacifier or no, and is criticizing every choice I chose. Edit here because I also forgot the best part. I told her that I was going to have a C-section due to the previa and that I was kind of really upset about it. Instead of being sympathetic, her response was, "At least she won't have a fucked up head like the natural ones." At this point I wanted to scream. I also felt like I wanted to cry. I hate being questioned on my baby and it was just making me so mad. My husband eventually stopped the conversation and said that it was probably time for everyone to go and that I had been up for too long anyway. As Sydney is getting ready to go, she says bye and tells me to call her soon and we can make plans. She hopes to babysit the baby. Why I said it, it honestly just slipped out, but I replied. "You're not going to watch my daughter. You're actually never even going to hold her, as long as Emily doesn't force me to let you." Sydney just stared at me, eyes wide, and then her eyes welled up. She quickly left and hasn't talked to me since. I felt a little bad afterwards, but my husband is on my side. However, Emily says that I should have been nicer to her, and just bit my tongue. I can tell Brian agrees with her. I'm sure Sydney's been sobbing to them for hours. I feel like a bitch, but I also feel warranted. Wasn't TA?